Hey everybody, happy Friday and a happy Memorial Day weekend to you. You are tuning in to Tisha Talks live at 10:45. So happy to have you with us if you're joining us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. And today I have another special guest. This is Sabine Gedeon, and she is with Gedeon Enterprises. And today we are talking all about discovering your leadership operating system. Sabine, welcome to the show. Good to have you here, girl. So excited.
Thank you, Tisha. Excited to be here. Happy Friday to you as well. So excited to be here.
You know, and we were just talking about this in the green room about entrepreneurship at its finest. And for those of you tuning in, I have had a little bit of a crazy morning. I literally was at the doctor's, taking my son to the doctor, came back here, did a lessons in my Lexus, made a smoothie for the kids, jumped on this, and we're ready to go.
And it's still Friday morning, technically.
It's still Friday morning. This is what life is like. This is what just rolling with the punches means, right? And I think that has a lot to do with your leadership style as well, if I could say, because sometimes things are going to be thrown at us. Uncertainty is going to be thrown at us, and we have to know how to deal. And I love that we're talking about this. So if you are, as I mentioned, tuning in off of LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, the chat line is open. We would love to hear from you. If you have a comment or a question for Sabine, please make sure to ask that. Even if you are watching the replay, we always go back and check those things too. Sabine is always about connecting with new people. So make sure that you shoot us a comment. Let us know you were here. And we're going to get on with the show with the first question. So Sabine, you talk so much about this leadership operating system. I would love for you to dive into what exactly is a leadership operating system.
Yeah, great question. And so before I answer that, I just kind of want to lay the backdrop here, because I know, especially now in the time that we're in, leadership, everyone has an opinion on what leadership is, what it looks like, and whatnot. And so just to share my philosophy on leadership, I believe that we're all leaders in some capacity or another, right? That it is an innate ability that we each have. We're all assigned a particular sphere of influence in which we can demonstrate our leadership, whether that's in the home, in our community, in our businesses, in our organization. So just kind of laying the foundation that we're all on the same level playing field here, and that this is not targeted to anyone in particular. But when it comes to a leadership operating system, for the purpose of this, it's really focusing on leaders of organizations. And so that is whether you're in corporate America or an entrepreneur and you've established an organization, you have a team. And so your leadership operating system starts with you. So the L is you. Well, it's Y, but the L starts with you and the LOS. And the focus on that is really, as we grow and as we develop, whether it be personally or in organizations, I think it comes a time where we start to notice, certain things about us, right? Or should have an awareness of what are our strengths? What is it that we value? What are our drivers? What are the things that that are non-negotiables for us? So I think when it comes to a leadership operating system and to optimize it is to really understand and have that awareness of who am I? What's important to me? Why am I here? Why am I doing all of this? Then the O goes into the organization, right? So what is the strategic vision for this organization? So you get the awareness on you, and then where are you going? Where are you headed? What are you building? Why are you building it? For whom? And what legacy do you want to leave? And then the S is really around the staffing side of it, the systems, the staffing and the systems, right? Who's the team? Because we know we can't build organizations, even if we start off as a solopreneur, we can't do it all by ourselves. We need the help and support of others. And so it's really getting clarity. Once you know who you are, where your strengths, where your weaknesses, where your opportunities are, where you're headed strategically, from an organizational standpoint, then you get to figure out, okay, well, who do I need to bring on to help support me with that? So that is the full circle leadership operating system.
I love that you're saying that, because I think that, and you brought up a really good point, Sabine, about just even if you're a solopreneur, right? Even if you're a solopreneur, realizing that you cannot do every single thing. You have to figure out what your strengths are, what you're really, really good at, and really stay in that lane and delegate the rest. So even if you decide you're never going to have an actual employee team, you're not going to be employing people, you are going to have people that are going to be working with you and helping you and growing you and building you and doing it with you. Like I have had to do that just this year. I was like, you know what? I can't do it all. I don't want to do it all. I know I suck at this. I'm going to go ahead and delegate that. And it has been just a world of difference, but there still has to be that leadership in there. You're still leading people because it's your vision, your why. Why are you doing it? What's the purpose? It's all of those things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's not just I decided to roll out of bed and here we go. Like there's actually a plan and a purpose.
Right. And even if you're not employing people, whether it be contractors or anything like that, your network, that's still part of your staffing, right? Like there's nothing that we as human beings, like when I hear, self-made millionaire or self-made anything, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not real. That's
please.
Not true. Right. Someone was helping you, whether it was through your network, whether it was through someone actually doing the work. And so again, it's really understanding that once you're clear on who you are, once you're clear on what your vision is, identifying who do I need to help support me. And that could be, you're actually paying them, they're volunteering, or they're people who are part of your network who can and want to help support you in succeeding.
Oh my goodness. So there, I love that. The whole self-made thing. It's also the expert status. I'm like, are you though? Do you really know everything there is to know? Really? Like you can't learn much more. I am pretty sure you can.
Right. And that brings me, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about, content, right? Putting out content around, thought leadership and whatnot. And I was sharing with them a tool that I use, and they were like, well, aren't you afraid that, someone else might share the same thing? I was like, girl, there is nothing new under the sun, right? Like, no one's coming up with anything new here. We hear imposter syndrome. We hear all these things multiple times. It's just a different variation of it. So there's that.
There, right there, Sabine, is like the mic drop, because I say the same thing. I said, you want to know the biggest difference? The delivery. It's the delivery. I could say the same thing that Sabine is saying, and we would have totally different audience and totally different people that gravitate toward the message. But it's the same message. I mean, scroll through your Instagram, scroll through your LinkedIn, and you'll see the same messages, the same lessons popping up. I do, you probably know I do this lessons in my Lexus every single week. But you know what, Sabine, I derived at those lessons in a very different way than you derived at it. And you probably, learned that same lesson, but in a different context, in a different story. Same thing. Right. Same thing. Yeah. You just had a different way you got there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yay. Okay. All right. So next question for you, and thank you so much for breaking down the elements that are in the LOS. And you brought up so many great questions, and you were mentioning in the green room that you want to go back and listen to Brian Ondrako's, because we talked about getting started and finding your happiness. And the reason you get started, how you get started, is really identifying this is what makes me happy. This is what I want in my life. This is what I want the legacy to be like. It's a lot of those things that you just mentioned as well. So there's so much, so much in common with what the two of you were even talking about today. But I love this question that you put up about investing in yourself. And should leaders invest in themselves? Should they care? And should they invest? And I can't tell you how many people I meet, Sabine, that are like, yeah, I don't invest in myself. And I always have that same thought. If you don't invest in yourself, why would anyone on earth invest in you? If you're not bettering yourself and learning and up-leveling and doing all these things, why would anyone do that with you?
Yeah.
So talk to us about investing in yourself? Should you even care? Should you just be like, everything's going to come to me anyway? We're
You
being
should.
a little bit sarcastic if you guys are tuning into this. Like Sabine and I are like, this is what it is. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah, absolutely. You should invest in yourself. And as you were talking, the thought came to me is that if you don't invest in yourself, if you're not intentional in investing in yourself, life's lessons will teach you what it is that you need to learn, good, bad, or indifferent, right?
Right.
So the way that I look at it is even from an entrepreneur perspective and even someone who coaches, right? My ability to make an impact in someone else's life is a direct reflection of my willingness to go through the growth process, to go through the changes, to go through challenging my own beliefs, right? Like if I were still that same person that I was, or still had the same mindset and beliefs and attitudes and behaviors that I had 5 years ago, I could not help people. Like there are individuals who are at that space, but I would cap out. And I've always been one of those people, the leaders that I've admired the most, and the ones that I, was willing to do anything for are the ones where I looked at them and said, if they can go through that and be who they are today, then that gives me hope. And so our stance, and again, this doesn't have to do with a role or anything like that, but think about it. If you're not growing and you're not developing, who wants to follow that? Like
Right.
people follow you, whether you're in entrepreneurship or whatever capacity, because they see an element of themselves in you. They may not be there yet, but there is something about you that resonates that they can identify with, and they want you to pull that out of them. So if you are stagnant and if you are resistant to growth and to change and to developing yourself, for people who want growth and development, they're going to look at you and be like, you have nothing to offer me. You have nothing to pull out of me. There may be a subset who is just like, oh yeah, that's just enough for me. And that's good. But, I am of the mindset that we all have seeds of greatness inside of us, that we are all on this earth to pour out and to demonstrate, the human ability, which is vast and great, which I feel like we haven't even tapped into. So why squander it with not taking care of yourself or not investing in yourself to grow and develop, and to give someone else hope on what's possible.
That's so true right there. And like you said, people are looking at you and they're trying to see, like, you were in my shoes and now you're here. Look at you. Look at you grow. Like the clients that I work with, I'm like, dang, I see so much of myself in you when I was there 5, 10 years ago when I was just getting started.
Yeah.
Right. So now I can help you because I've had the experience. I was talking to a good friend yesterday and we were talking about, would you rather have someone that has gone through the certification and is 20 years old, but they went through the coaching classes? Or would you rather have someone that has had 15 years of experience? Shout out to Ron, who said this to me yesterday. And I was like, oh my gosh, Ron, I would absolutely want the person that doesn't have the certification, but has the 15 years of experience and can really teach me something. It's really, really hard for me to go to someone who's like, I just went through the class. I can tell you everything you know. I can teach you everything you know. And I'm like, but have you gone through the same experiences that I'm going through now? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's a hard no. Right. So moving on, I'm hiring the person with a lot more experience because that person has so much they can teach me, and wisdom and lessons learned and everything. They are the leader I want to follow.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. I remember a few years back when I was contemplating leaving corporate America, and I found out about life coaching, right? And I remember I used to have this attitude of like, who has the audacity to call themselves a life coach? Like none of us have life figured out, right? Like how dare they?
How dare
they? Life coaches, forgive me for my ignorance, because one of my certifications is in life coaching. But one of the things that I recognize, or that I realize, that our ability to impact and to help someone grow and develop is really based on our lessons. So yes, the 20-year-old who is just out of school, who has life to live, probably won't be my life coach. but there may be something that, they have cultivated and they have developed and whatnot that might make sense. So I think it's very important that, we don't get caught up on titles, right? We don't get
Hmm.
caught up on certifications. Again, at the core of, if you think about any great leader, right? If you think about anyone who's been in leadership, and we can look at the landscape that we have right now, unfortunately,
Hmm. Right.
the reason why people are following them, again, even if they weren't in that space, even if they weren't in that particular role, they had followers at some point, and
Right.
people resonate with you as a leader. At the core of it, they're going to resonate with you. If you are a negative Nancy, right, and you are a complete critic and everything is bad, guess what? There are a group of people who are going to flock to you because that's where they are in life, and
Right.
vice versa on the positive side. So it's really doing that gut check of, who am I? How am I showing up? Is this how I want to show up? And then, is this what I want to lead people to?
Yeah. So good that you're saying that. All right. Here are all these comments coming in. Hey, just want to give a shout out to Russ Johns, Tisha Rocks, just saying, hey, that's so awesome. Happy Friday to you too, Russ. And then to Regine Roberts, who's joining us on LinkedIn. It's about getting to know people and finding out what you can learn from each other. Regine and I had a really great conversation just the other day too about sometimes we get into these situations where the imposter syndrome kind of comes into play too,
Mhm.
but we all have those strengths. What we were talking about, we can all help someone else with what we've been through, so we shouldn't shy away from it thinking that, oh, that person can go somewhere else, they've got it figured out, like somebody else can teach them. No, you can teach them. I
Yeah.
think part of that leadership style is showing up. Russ even has that. Do I have to show up? Do you have
Yeah.
to show up as a leader? Do you have to show up? Sabine, tell me, do you have to show up?
How can you not? Right? Like,
Kind of a tough question. It was like this is kind of a
right. And it's almost like, where are you leading people to? Right? If you don't have a direction, if you aren't clear on where you're headed, if you can't communicate it, then yeah, no one's going to follow you or want, or even understand, what am I being part of? And I
Mhm.
think if we've learned anything in these last couple of years, is that, we already knew we were communal, but like, we know that we need each other, right? Like, no one person, think about the work that we each do, right? There are dozens, hundreds, if not thousands of other entrepreneurs who do something similar. But
Mhm.
what makes this unique in what we do individually is who we are, our experiences, how we approach things. And so really, if think about it, if we just weren't doing this, right? If we were just like trigger finger with our with our keyboards, we never showed up, we never posted anything, we never tried to encourage or motivate, we never got out there. Think about the many people who would never know, like, oh my gosh, Tisha is the coach for me, or oh my gosh, Sabine can support me in my business or in my organization, or from a coaching perspective. So, long answer to that, yes, you do have to show up,
Right.
or else how will people know that you're the leader for them?
How will people know? Exactly. I just want to say thanks so much, Russ, for this. Thanks for the message and thanks for the stream today, Sabine and Tisha, and gratitude. And then we've got Royce Blake. Hey, Royce, joining us. Great leaders unveil great ideas to people. The only way to gain those insights is by investing in yourself. Exactly what we were
Amazing
talking
point.
about, too. So I have another special guest coming on to Tisha Talks Live next Friday, Sabine, and I think you two, if you haven't yet met, you would really hit it off. So Bob Berg is the author of the Go Giver series, and
Yes.
I love Bob. I'm actually part of his Go Giver community, so shout out to them. And it's a community of go givers. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, just like you said, when you are leading, the people come. They want to follow you because you have something. They want to be a part of that community that you've created. And Bob has another book. One part of the Go Giver series is the Go Giver Leader. You know,
Mhm.
the Go Giver Leader. And have you ever read it, the Go Giver Leader?
Okay, so I've read one fully. I have two in play. Is that the purple one?
No,
Color.
the go-giver leader is the blue one. The
The blue one.
go-giver
Okay.
purple one is the go-giver influencer, which I
Okay.
just wrapped up.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be talking about the go-giver influencer next week. But the go-giver leader, and I don't want to spoil it, but it really talks about leaders. Like the one thing that I really took away from it is leaders give leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders don't just stand there and say, I'm the one that knows best. I'm the one that can do this. You're all like peons to me. Like, could you imagine? Could you imagine?
It
You
exists,
know,
unfortunately. It
I
exists.
know, I know, I know it exists. And it was just a friend of mine pointed out. I had my daughter sing at my last Social Connect event, and she was really timid and shy, but kind of what we're talking about here, Sabine. You have a gift. I'm going to encourage you to share that gift so other people can witness it and experience it too.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think of that, but a friend of mine pointed out, he's like, Tisha, you were giving your daughter leadership in that very
Mm-hmm.
moment. And we all got to witness you giving her the leadership. And I was like, I did? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that you share that. It makes me think of one of my clients. I was just having a conversation with them not too long ago, and we were talking about how, building relationships is their superpower, right? Like
Yeah.
they are able to create deep connections with people. And in essence, being able to do that, people feel cared for, people are able to trust them in what they
Mhm.
say, and then that allows them to influence people, right? But in some cases too, overuse of some of our strengths can be a challenge. But in that moment, I felt the need to kind of really lean into look at the ripple effect of you being you exercising a talent and a skill and a gift that comes so natural to you, and the impact that it has on people in the multiple ways that you're able to impact people by just doing something that comes natural to you. So I think that that's another point that I want to make here is again, we get so caught up on, leadership is about executive presence and leadership is about all these things, which I think are important. Don't get me wrong. But at the core, if it's an innate skill, right? If like love, right? And I'll get off my soapbox. Love, right, is something that we don't have to try at. Well, in some cases we
Nah,
do. But
nah. I'm kind of beg to differ on that one.
it comes natural depending on the person sometimes, right?
Depending.
But it's something where like we don't have to go to school to learn how to love, right? It's something that is within us.
Yeah.
Now, can we gain tools? Can we gain skills to strengthen it? Can we learn other things like communication and all those other pieces to, really strengthen it? Absolutely. So if we look at leadership is really allowing people or creating space for you yourself first, because I think it starts with you, right? You can't bring anyone anywhere else that you haven't been first. I
Yeah.
just butchered that quote. But then you create space for other people to be able to just step in and be who they are, share their gifts, share their talents. I think that that's a beautiful thing. And I wish, to the point that you made about your daughter, women in particular,
Mhm.
I think, the more that we can give ourselves and create spaces for ourselves to step in and just be who we are and lead in the natural gifts and talents that we have, that
Yeah.
we will create this ripple effect for the next generation to, not feel like they're being bossy or aggressive or assertive or all those other labels that, some of us may have had to battle through.
Right. No, that's good stuff. I wanted to say hi to a couple of people who are joining us in on Facebook. Thanks so much for tuning into this. And just like everyone else who's been chiming in, if you have a question, make sure that you ask that. We've got a couple more minutes left. And I wanted to ask you one more question, Sabine. There's a lot of uncertainty in the times that we're in. And as a leader, I know it's hard to step into that. It's hard to know how to deal with that. So, how do you help leaders navigate that world when there's uncertainty being thrown at them?
Yeah, great question. And so, as I think about these last couple of years, right, it's kind of hard to think about what 2019 looked at like, right? But, pre pandemic or
Pre-COVID.
whatever you want to call it, yeah. So many people were kind of set, right? This is the
Yeah.
path that I'm going down. This is my business. This is my organization. This is my career path. And then, life threw a wrench in that and was just like, actually, no, there are going to be some detours, right?
Right.
And so it created a space for so many of us, especially those in leadership, to evaluate what's important to us, to evaluate, the things that we were striving for, the things that we were working towards. Are those things really important, right? Like, I feel like we all had a massive shift in perspective on what's real and what's important.
Yeah.
And, if we've noticed anything in these last 2 years, it was almost like it hasn't stopped, right?
Mhm.
Like, I remember the first 6 months, everybody was just like, I want to go back to normal. I want to go back to normal. I want to go back to normal. And, even then, it was very clear that there is no more normal, right?
No.
Whatever this is right now, this is the new normal, and you have to adapt and you have to adjust. And so for those in leadership roles now, those who are running organizations, I say this all the time, two things in life that are inevitable: change and death, right? Not to, be all morbid here, but those two things are inevitable. And as leaders, it is our responsibility to get to a place where we have to plan for the future, right? Have that strategic vision, have those plans, and have that other stuff, but also be at that space where we have reckoned with the truth that we are not in control, that
Mhm.
things are going to happen, and that when, stuff hits the fan, everyone's going to be looking to us to figure out how to move forward. That doesn't mean
Mhm.
that we have to have all the answers, but that does mean that we have a willingness to, one, deal with our own fears, our own insecurities, our own challenges that we're dealing with in that moment, create space for other people to do the same, and to, reinforce whatever that North Star and whatever that vision is. So again, I go back to the LOS as a way of, no matter what's going on, always go back to you.
Mm.
Always go back to you. There are always going to be external circumstances that, that disrupt what we're doing in our day to day. And if you aren't firmly founded in who you are, what your purpose is, what you're driving towards, what your zone of genius is in whatever capacity, then it's going to be easier to let the external circumstances challenge your identity, challenge your truth. And then when that happens, it's going to be harder to
Yeah.
be able to tell people like, oh, okay, this is who I am and this is the path that we're going, when you're in a state of internal chaos and internal uncertainty.
Yeah. Oh, those are such brilliant words right there, Sabine. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that it just is, we're just reaffirming that you have to figure out all of those pieces, those foundational pieces first,
Yeah.
right? So that when these things happen, you stay grounded to, this is what I was after, and yeah, I need to adapt and adjust a little bit, but I'm still moving ahead with this,
Yeah.
right? And I love what you said, creating space for others in your organization to know that they're okay, that they're being heard, that they can adapt and change with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. I have a couple more comments coming in from Russ. We all have a unique path to leadership. Of
Absolutely.
course, we sure do. And Royce. So yeah, that uncertainty, like when Disneyland and Vegas closed down. Yes. And we've all experienced that. I mean, oh my goodness, the whole, we have to now make reservations to go to Disneyland,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is what the new normal is. And you did, I mean, you said that so perfectly too, that in 2019 life was grand. I know I was in like my prime. I was like, things are moving, things are shaking. I'm so happy. 2020 hit, and I was like, you know what? I have all of these things that I want to do, and then overnight, Sabine, it was gone. All of
Mm-hmm.
it, everything. I went back to ground zero of having to rebuild, and I didn't have a team yet, but I really understood that, well, my purpose is still the same. I
Yeah.
still want to inspire people and inspire the next generation. I just got to get a little more creative with that,
Yeah.
and that's okay. So as long as you have that operating system and you know what it is that you're working towards, then it is a lot easier to adapt, instead of the internal chaos that we find ourselves in. We're like, okay, the sky is falling and I have no idea, no idea what
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do next. And then you
Yeah.
bring everybody into panic mode because they're like, I see you panicking. I want to panic too. No, no,
Right.
no. Calm down. All right. Just calm down.
And even if you're having a moment of panic, right, there's a way to communicate that doesn't,
Yeah.
raise the alarm, to say, you know what, I'm a little confused right now. I don't have clarity on this,
Right.
but I'm going to figure it out. And when I do, I can come back to you.
Yeah.
I think as leaders, one of the questions that I ask myself, and this is not on a schedule or anything like that, but I would invite those who are listening to really, do self check-ins. Like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Am I being the person that I really truly am? Or have I somehow veered and am doing something differently? Because as long as you can stay founded or rooted in that truth of I am being who I am today, and that evolves, right? We grow, we develop. We just talked about
Yeah.
investing in yourselves, that
Yeah.
evolves. But doing that self check-in is based on who I am and who I know I am to be. Am I operating in that space? Am I functioning in that space? Am I doing the things that align with who I am? And then you incorporate everything else. But I'm so glad we were able to have this conversation and to do this. There's so much more obviously I could say about this, but I'm glad foundationally we're able to kind of like debunk this whole thing around like what it means to be a leader and what is leadership and how do you show up as yourself. That's the short of it. If you're catching the end, show up as yourself.
Okay, so and I want to just piggyback on that too, because I had a good friend who is in a very high leadership role too, and he said, Tisha, you know this, Sabine, I've been on your podcast. She leads now, um, and I remember him saying this to me, and it just kind of sparked something in me. He said, "You teach people how to build a personal brand," and I said, "Yes." And he's like, "The challenge is you're going to want, or are you trying to make people who you are? Like you're going to create mini Tishas." And I said, "That was never the intent. I don't think anybody has the same brand that I do, nor should they. They really need to figure out again who they are, what drives them, what's their purpose, all of those things. And that is what comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to create Tisha's, clone myself with clients and I want them to be exactly like me." I was like, no, I don't want them to be anything like me. I think
Yeah.
they need to be unique. Just like even Russ said, you find your unique path to leadership. You find your unique path to who you are and to what your brand is and what it stands for.
Yeah.
So
And I
it got
love
me thinking a little bit. I was like, I'm not trying to do that.
But here's the thing, Tisha, in reality, because you're so great at being who you are and you do it so effortlessly and you do it so naturally, unknowingly and unconsciously, you're giving people permission to do that for themselves. So
Mhm.
I would be hard pressed to believe that, you're creating, clones. The way that I see it, at least, I'm a little biased here. The way that I see it is in you showing up in the way and the manner that you do and the things that you teach. It then allows people to look at themselves and say, how does that apply to me? And so
Yeah.
while you are cloning yourself, I don't think it's cloning yourself in the way that you think. It's
Yeah.
cloning yourself in terms of allowing people to be more authentic, allowing people the permission to be themselves and to share themselves with others.
Yeah, I like that answer. Thank you so much. Because I was sitting on my head. I'm like, no, no, no. I don't give people the package of this is the Tisha package. So when you're done, you're going to look and sound exactly like I do.
Yeah.
Just no thanks. No, I don't have that package. It doesn't exist. All right. Well, in the time that we have left, Sabine, I would love for you to share with the audience how they get in touch with you. Talk to us about your podcast. And thanks again for having me on not too long ago. That was so much fun to be on that with you. And how people can find you.
Yes, thank you for that. And yes, that was a really, really great episode on branding. So please be sure to check it out. My podcast is She Leads Now, and the podcast is really focused on a lot of this, but really for women who are in leadership roles, who have stepped out, who are building their organizations, who are growing their organizations. I just think that this is a time and a space where women are not that we needed permission, but we have full permission to exercise our leadership ability and capability. And She Leads Now is meant to support them. And then, of course, you can reach out to me through my website at SabineGedeon.com. I am on LinkedIn, so connect. I do accept LinkedIn requests and invitations to virtual coffees. So please be sure to connect.
Thanks. And I want to give a shout out to our mutual friend because I believe that's how we connected, Mary Thane Brandt.
Yes.
Thank you so much for connecting the two of us. We've had just amazing conversations and virtual lattes and podcasts and live streams. Like, it's been so fun. I love that one little connection can lead to so much. You know, it's just like Russ said, it's about showing up and seeing where that leads. That one little tiny seed that was just us connecting that one time has led to all of this.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for you this Friday. I love your style. I love that we can just be honest and real with one another, and and have people in the comments also doing the same.
Yeah. And thank you for being, again, I use this word with you all the time. You're probably tired of hearing it, but just thank you for being your authentic self. And thank you for, again, giving others permission, consciously or unconsciously, to do the same. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And here on a just a fun note as we end this, Royce Blake saying, Sabine's awesome. I have to
Thank you,
second
Royce.
that. Thanks so much, everybody who tuned in live, who tuned in off of Facebook and LinkedIn. And for sure, you can catch this episode on any of those platforms as well as on YouTube. And if you have any questions or if you want to connect with Sabine, you can do that through LinkedIn. Here's what I would suggest. Hey, send her a message saying, I just saw you on Tisha Talks Live. I'd love to connect so that she knows where that connection came from. And we will see you guys back next week. We hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. And next Friday, like I said, we kick off with Bob Berg with the Go Giver series. We're talking about the Go Giver influencer. So make sure you tune in for that. And Sabine, thanks again, girl. I really appreciate your being here today, even with all the crazy internal chaos I had going on this morning. It's now calmer, so we're all good.
Thank you. Hopefully things remain calm for you through this weekend.
I think so. I think we're over the hump. I think that life is pretty good, smooth sailing right now. So I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready to just like sit by the pool and lounge with my drink.
Thank you, Trisha.
All right. We'll see everybody later. Have a great one. Bye. All right.